thank you very much for joining us again this morning. For those who don't know, I'm Daniela Drogales, and I'm one of the co-founders and co-chairs of the FIGTDC affiliate here. So today we have Dr. Konstantina Kass, and she is a certified school psychologist with tons of experience offering services for children and teens and their families who are preparing to go overseas or are posted overseas or are returning from abroad, and has a passion for helping families to live their best lives as they travel abroad. And she has 2 children. What ages are they again?
11 and 14.
All right, so young teens, teens and tweens. So she's here today to really help us understand how or give us some tools and how to help our teens and young adults manage anxiety during this time of lockdown and this pandemic, and where there's so much uncertainty and so much change in our lives. So I'm going to let Konstantina take it from here.
Thank you for having me, Daniela. I've been really enjoying attending these sessions for the past month and getting to know FIGT. I'm going to go ahead and start with sharing my screen here. So we're going to start with the 3 things that I wanted to relay that are really important at this time are communicating, connecting, and supporting your teen. And first off, having kids with TCK kids, you already have a bunch of knowledge about how to handle moves and how to handle a certain level of uncertainty. So kind of thinking about what's worked for you in the past when you're moving to a new location. What have you done that's helped your family adjust? So those are some of the skills that you can use now during this time with your kids. Anyone have any thoughts when I say that thing pops in their mind?
Feel free to unmute. Shumali. Shumali, can you please unmute yourself?
Today is not my day of, anyway. Yeah. We've just come back from a post overseas, and most of my kids are TCKs. One's 18 and one's 21. And our son has had 2 breaks in his high school. And one of the things we've done to help him ease his stress is to stay connected with his friends. Yeah. And I think that has been very helpful.
Yes.
You know, amidst this, a lot of uncertainty.
It's very important. The research for my dissertation that I did in an international school in Greece, that was what I was looking at, helping kids with anxiety and burnout. And the #1 buffer that I found was social support. And that can come from parent support, teacher support, and close friend support. So really it's quality over quantity in terms of the friends. So the biggest buffer for anxiety for teens especially is close friend support. So anything you can do during this time to help keeping maybe 1 or 2, help facilitating 1 or 2 close friendships going with your child, with your teen, is really critical for this time.
Konstantina, can I ask you to enlarge the screen?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Sorry. There we go.
That's all right. Thank you.
Thanks. So the first part of communicating, one thing I've used with my families for years is really recommending family meetings. This is something I strongly recommend keeping it short and sweet in the beginning, maybe 15 minutes, and keeping it positive. But it's a time when everyone gets together and can practice communicating in the family. So you could start off with something fun, like family fun night, or choosing a meal like I have on this, or something fun for the week. Some of my families and my clients that I'm working with now have increased the family meeting to, some are even doing like short 10-minute family meetings in the morning, because it's to get everyone on board with who's going to study where and who's going to use which device, right? So it's a very useful tool, and just practicing communicating with your team. sometimes they need kind of that incentive, like this is the family meeting time, right? And this is when we're going to be talking. And then eventually, as you guys get more comfortable with it, you really use it as a tool to problem solve issues in the family as things get further on. Has anyone used family meetings in the past? Can you let me know how that went for you?
Hi, this is Carol. So I have 3 TCKs. I only have 2 living at home right now. So my 24-year-old is in Germany, and I have a 22-year-old. She's a junior in university, soon to be senior in university, and a senior in high school. So this has been an incredibly difficult year, particularly for my senior in high school, as he's choosing colleges and so forth. And my son, who's 24, he's in Germany. He just started a job in Germany in January, and everything just started happening. He wasn't sure that, since he's the newest one on the payroll, you know, so there's been a lot of anxiety with all 3 of them. And I have now my college student in high school senior here at home. You know, so we have 2 adults who are working, 2 who are, you know, trying to do school. They're doing exams, they're doing research papers. So we always had a whiteboard anyway, and it's been completely wiped off with everybody's activities. And now we plug in, like, who has a Zoom presentation. You know, since I've got a high schooler and a university student, you know, they have their presentations that they're giving, they're doing exams. There has to be periods of quiet time, you know, so we have that all on the board. But then the other is, like, my son in Germany is like, how are we going to communicate with him? So sometimes what we'll do is we'll have a meal, and it'll be usually on the weekend, and usually sometime in the, I would just say, later afternoon. We'll all be sitting at the dining table, and then we call in Nick, who's over in Germany, and we all kind of gather together, and that becomes kind of family meeting, and we check up on one another and how's things going, and the kids, like, you know, share jokes and whatever, and bad language and whatever they talk about. And no, and I think that that's been important, is having that whiteboard. Everybody kind of looks at it. It's kind of in the kitchen, so people go over there. I haven't really enforced, you know, I mean, I've got older teens and young adults, so I can't really enforce, you know, how they're planning out their day. But we do have, like, specific times where we all come together for the evening meal, and we all kind of check in kind of midday, like whatever, you know, they're not up right now, but you know, we all sort of check in on one another, and before we all, like, you know, go off to our little sectors and do our work. So yeah, that's what's worked for us. So I guess it's sort of meetings.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's excellent. It's a time to
we text one another in the house. So
oh, yeah,
that helps too. Like, dinner's ready soon, or are you done? Because you don't actually know what they're doing, and they could actually be online with their class. And I don't always hear that, because they're good at being very stealth about being in their class. And I'm not really always sure, and I bust in there and the dogs run in. So it gets interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
It's like giving them their independence, right? Well, they're very independent and they're doing things on their own. It's always hard for some parents have a difficulty time kind of figuring out, where is that level that I need to intervene? What level do they need some support at? And what level can they do things independently? You know, like the zone of, I think of in my education background, like the zone of proximal development. Where are they at, and where do I need to assist? And that's also coming into play big time with some parents for the executive functioning skills that these kids need to have now, with managing all these classes and notes and when to do what. But so it can be quite challenging, but it's also a learning experience and prepping them for the younger teens, right, to how to have those skills. And also for the whiteboard, I was thinking another thing is just that if people want to jot down topics that they want to talk about at the next meeting. Sounds like you guys are probably at a good place where you can have that more problem solving type meeting already. So you have a good communication laid down, that platform where you can go to the next level with the meetings. And it's also a good time to talk about the feelings and emotions going on with your teen during this time. I'm going to switch to So one thing that's really hard for myself and most parents is when your teen is expressing difficult feelings, to not have the urge to just right away help fix it. So it's really important to you to just sit with the feeling with them. And that can be so powerful for the difficult feelings. So using reflective listening so that your teen feels heard. Like, I hear that this is really difficult for you. And then trying to use open-ended questions to keep facilitating the conversation. Really feel that I feel statements are really helpful to model for yourself and your teen, to when you're expressing, when let's say you're frustrated or angry at your teen or there's a conflict, to use an I feel statement to express your feelings is a really good modeling to open up that it's okay to talk about difficult feelings in this house and we can work it out. Any thoughts on that or questions on this? Because this is a really important topic for the time.
Yeah, this is Azmaret. This has made a huge difference between before even being able to communicate and then having very open communication with my son who's in Europe and stuck there, where in the beginning he would have issues and would tell me and I would immediately jump in with solutions and suggestions, and I could do this and I could introduce that, and he would say, I didn't ask you for advice, and would not want to talk to me again. It was 1920, something like that. And what I then thought about was exactly what you say. He's obviously not asking for advice, and I do want to hear everything he has to say. I want him to feel that there is a safe place. And like you said, it was a try to sit with the feeling was exactly that. It was sitting on my hands and sitting on my tongue and just listening. And that has made a huge difference because he feels like he has a place to go. And once that feeling of trust is established, then at some point you can ask, do you want to know, do you think you want to hear what I think about it? But it takes practice.
Yeah.
A lot of practice on my part.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult.
I think if I can add something to that, I think what I found very useful is, instead of being reactive, which is the normal thing for us to do, I try to get in my meditation and my mindfulness practice in the morning, which I think helps sort of how you react to a particular situation. I'm not always there, but I think it helps with just taking away that anxiety or your personal anxiety that you then impose on the kid.
Absolutely. It's kind of taking care of your own emotions and feelings so that you can be ready to be present and handle those tough feelings. And I always really strongly urge parents that they're watching us right now, how we're handling this, right? And it can be difficult for obviously all of us to handle this time. But this is a learning experience. So it's really important to model how to expressing difficult feelings, like I said earlier, sitting with feelings, and just knowing that it's okay. We're all kind of going through this emotional roller coaster. And for most people that I've been talked to, they describe it as coming and going, right? Like you're okay 1 minute and then you have a wave of it, and kind of letting them know like kind of how we can ride that wave, that we'll have a little bit of anxiety, it'll peak, but then it'll eventually go down again. And then that's a normal right now. The one-on-one time, sometimes people think, oh, that's good for my 5-year-old or 7-year-old, but this is great for all ages, especially teens, to schedule one-on-one time with your teens. And during this time, just make it a time that you're enjoying time together and trying to make it something that they would like to do together. And the most difficult part of this is just finding the time to do it, right? Kind of putting it in your schedule, adding it to the whiteboard, right? You're like putting it in there so that you have that 20 minutes, each parent with each child. I've noticed a lot of improvement in relationships from doing this, especially the teens will eventually kind of use it as a time. I've noticed the trend is that they use it as a time to express some emotions as they get used to doing this time with a parent. Anyone try the one-on-one time?
Yeah, sometimes we go and we walk the dog together.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
with one of them.
Yeah, that's great.
Right? And that's always a good time to sort of get caught up or just chat or not.
Mm-hmm. Right. Just being together, it's all that really matters, and feeling that support. This is Kathy Cohen I work at InStep, and she came out with a newsletter this month talking about the new normal routines. I think we've heard that a lot lately. But it is really important to have the structures and routines to create safety and peace at home. And to try to make some fun things for them to look forward to. There's some suggestions here: takeout nights, game nights, movie nights. Just kind of thinking of what your teen enjoys and being creative with it, and something that you guys can do on a routine basis, just like the calls at dinner, like you said, or anything that works for your family so that it's time together that you can enjoy together. And try to divide up the chores among the family members. You know, another thing is like a sense of belonging is really important for teens. So now they have their sense of belonging with their peers, but now really having that sense of belonging in the home really is helpful to them to have that safety and peace, is that they have that strong sense of belonging. They're participating in the family, they're helping out. Anyone do anything fun with their new family routine or something that they're enjoying during this time?
We're doing the Friday takeout and movie.
Oh, yeah.
And we're doing it together on Fridays, and then Saturdays we've learned that they each want to, so I have two, one's a senior in college and one's a senior in high school as well. So they each want to have that Saturday to themselves, you know, to either talk with their friends overseas or watch a movie. So Fridays are together time, and then Saturdays are individual time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Carol was mentioning puzzles.
Oh, yeah. And
yeah, that's actually been something that was a little bit surprising. And I had noticed this before, usually around the holidays or sometime when they're all home, I'll start a puzzle. And I love puzzling, and I can get a bit obsessed by it. Like, I got to find that next piece. Yeah. And funny enough, it became like mom's, you know, therapy sessions. And they would come and tell me everything. It used to be in the car when I was driving them somewhere, because they don't see me face like front on. And so then they just start talking. And now it's puzzles. And they'll just come in and just share whatever concerns, worries. They'll talk about stuff that, you know, as long as I keep looking down at the table and not at them, they'll talk to me, you know. But the moment I, you know, engage with them, then it's like, ooh, you know, it stops. But if we're like busy trying to find this next piece or whatever, then all these stories and worries and concerns come out. So it's puzzling for us.
That's great. Yeah, that eye contact, I hear that. I run a lot of groups, and the parents always say, well, the best time for the group is the drive in and the drive out, and the important conversations that come out during that time when you don't have that eye contact, and just kind of, it's really helpful. And studies show that males in therapy do better when there's not direct eye contact. So I've been trained with cognitive behavioral therapy. I've done a lot of training at the Beck Institute in Philadelphia, and I'm going to kind of give you a basic overview of something you can try with your teen. That's a really useful tool, life tool. The roller coaster exam, the cognitive behavioral therapy is the kind of the gold standard for treating anxiety. And it's the way a person perceives this. It's the model, it's based on the cognitive model, as I have here. The way that a person perceives a situation is more closely related to their reaction than the situation itself. So I'm going to go ahead and describe a roller coaster example, which I was taught at the Beck Institute, which really kind of helps the kids and teens understand the concept. So let's say there's two kids in line for a roller coaster, and one's Joe. And Joe's like, right? He's like smiling, excited. What do you think he's thinking in his thought bubble about the roller coaster?
I'm so excited. This is gonna be great.
Yeah. And he's feeling what kind of emotions is he feeling?
Excited?
Well, he's excited, right?
Expectation?
What behavior, what do you think is going to happen? What's he going to do?
He's gonna enjoy himself.
Right. Then there's Larry standing next to Joe, his friend, and he's like, what do you think Larry's thinking?
Why am I doing this?
What emotions is Larry having?
Scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scared.
What do you think Larry's going to do?
He's gonna hate it.
Right. So what could Joe say to Larry to get him to go on the roller coaster?
You could say, come on, come and join the fun.
Yeah. Any other thoughts of what Joe could say to Larry?
He could reassure him that it's not that bad.
Right. So cognitive behavioral therapy is kind of like your Joe talking to your Larry. Kind of the Larry thoughts are the automatic negative thoughts that pop in our mind. And Joe is thinking helpful and true thoughts. So kind of getting them to notice how their thoughts affect their emotions and then also their behavior. It's all connected. So kind of using this ants automatic negative thoughts, the ants are crawling around in your mind, and we need to look at them and analyze our thoughts. We can't just go with any thought we have and react to it. So having them change their automatic negative thoughts to helpful and true thoughts, it's very simple and it's effective. So you can go into, when you're in therapy, you can look into why you're having those kind of thoughts. What are the core beliefs leading to the thoughts? But as a parent, this is a simple tool you can give to your teen to help them in the moment kind of manage the anxiety. So you can have a piece of paper with, I think I have do I have a sign? Oh yeah, for example, I'm going to have you do that in a minute. I'm just giving you're going to do a breakout session in a minute after I go through a little bit more, but you can have the ants on the one side of the page. And then is it helpful? Is it true on the other side of the page? And then you can work on changing those automatic negative thoughts. So I'm going to go back a bit here's I found this on Pinterest actually, some thought changes for the pandemic right now. You guys want to look that over for a minute? So this is really important for them to recognize that the power to facing fear and handling anxiety is within themselves. It's something that they can manage and learn to beat and handle, and also to be able to tolerate some anxiety, because life has anxiety and we have to be able to be ready to fight it and face anxiety and not avoid. So I'm going to have you guys try this out. I want you to just take a few minutes and write down your own automatic negative thoughts, and then try to change them to helpful and true thoughts. And another thing when you're showing this to your teen, what I recommend for them to do is to write down all of the ants they can think of first, and then tackle them one by one to changing them to a helpful and true thought. And it's really important to kind of see evidence that it's helping, or if it's not helping, try a different coping strategy. So what I have them do is look at all the ants and rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being no anxiety at all and 10 being the greatest anxiety you've felt. rate the ants, and then, so read them all and kind of give a 1 number for the whole feeling that you're getting from those ants, and then rate the helpful and true thoughts. And 9 out of 10 times, you know, the anxiety level is lower with the helpful and true thought, and it can be a really effective measure. Another thing, I have really anxious kids, the ones that are like, they're disturbed throughout the day with anxiety and it's hard for them to focus, is to schedule worry time. This is another kind of behavioral strategy that gives them a sense of control over the worry, that the worry is not overtaking them. Okay, like, so you're gonna put something in your empty jar in your mind, that's a worry. I'm gonna put it in my jar, and from 3 to 3:20, I'm gonna worry. So if you do that, that gives them, and you could try it yourself. It's a great technique to manage when you're going to worry. If you can do that, it's a huge relief for anxiety. And then during that time, that could be a time that they can write down the ants, or you can write down your ants and try to change them to helpful and true thoughts. Okay, so trying to really use, we call it, when I say with the kids, like your intellectual part, cognitive part of your brain, talking to your worry part of your brain. Because we all have to, there's a function of anxiety. We need anxiety, like if we see thick smoke coming from the window of our neighbor's house, we need to be anxious. But we have to use the cognitive part of our brain to analyze our thoughts because it misfires. So there's different ways you can kind of illustrate it to them. But really, being very scientific sometimes really helps them have a better sense of not being so black and white in their thinking. I think it's just kind of focusing on the things that they can control is really important. And going back to, I know you said you've moved, you know, your TCKs, kind of like going back to them, like I said in the beginning, what was helpful for you? I know it's a different feeling, but there's some similarities in terms of you're moving to a different country and it's uncertain. What were the things you could control during those uncertain times? And a lot of them, if you find, I think are quite similar. And I'm going to move on because I feel like this is helpful in terms of a schedule. I know people are saying a lot of things about schedules, and just for my work with kids with depression, which, you know, they're at a risk of, like you said, kind of falling through some anxiety and also depression here, is called behavioral activation. It's where we force people to do things that they enjoy, even though maybe they don't really feel like doing it. And then they notice that in the middle of doing it, they get a boost in mood. So it's really important for teens, and I like what you said about when the anxiety about school being over and the empty time, because they really do need a balance of feeling accomplished.
Yeah.
You know, so finding something that they can have that sense of accomplishment is going to be really important in the summer when school ends, and things that they love to do and are passionate about. So if you make sure that every day they have a combination of both those things, this is also another, just a list I got on Pinterest, but it could be a short, fun thing like watching a funny YouTube video, to doing a breathing technique, any kind of small, short thing to incorporate throughout their day to boost their mood. So having them create a list of things that they enjoy doing to boost their mood. And then, like we talked about earlier, when I see support, the biggest thing I think of for teens is that they really need that social connection, and making sure that you're helping them facilitate that as much as you can, checking in on them. Another thing that can help in terms of accomplishment during these times is doing something like a volunteer work, something for the community where they feel like they're contributing to helping the problem. And just kind of acknowledging that they are. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to stay home and follow the orders and do the social distancing, and that kind of praising that, they recognizing how hard it is and how they're doing such a great job with that. If they are, I'm sure they are. Acknowledging that it's hard on us too, and having those open communication in the family meetings, or just talking about our feelings more and expressing that it's hard on us as well, and maybe talk about what you're doing to help with that for your own self. And when you're talking about the ants with the teens, also talk about your own ants, because I think knowing that it's normal to feel that way is really a relief, because kids, they get in their head that, oh my gosh, this isn't normal, is this okay? And just kind of give them a sense that yes, we're all kind of feeling this way, we all have these thoughts, and here are some tools that we could try to use to help. And I think it's going to be really important, this summer coming up, right, to develop some sort of routine like we talked about earlier, some structure. And this is another example of the 4 things to make sure you get in a day: some physical, some emotional, social, and cognitive. Puzzles is on there, right, for the cognitive, just like that, kind of focusing on something else and doing something productive. There are some really good apps out there. I really like the Calm app. I don't know if you guys, they have the sleep stories, meditations. I just got another one called Sleep. So those are, the teens love apps. So something like that can help them.
Yeah, there's another one that the psychiatrist in South Africa had sent around during lockdown, and it's by this journalist. It's called 10%.
Oh, okay.
And it's very cool.
I'm gonna get 10%.
Yeah. And the other one I like, but I always laugh about it because I like Deepak Chopra, but I don't like that he's used his Indianness to sort of brand he's a businessman, but he must remind me of a long lost uncle, because every time I hear him, I fall asleep.
Well, that's effective. There you go.
So I think you need to have a bit of humor in all of this as well.
Humor is so important.
Yeah. I said Headspace is another one.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
I know Headspace, yeah.
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 And then Tina Turner's come up with some fabulous mantras that she sings, and she's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So there are lots out there.
Mantras are really helpful. Yeah. Something to start your day with the thought. And I really like what Priya said last time. I've been telling all my clients when you brush your teeth, that take those couple minutes of time to think of things you're grateful for. I thought that was just a small, simple. I really like small, simple things that you're actually going to use, which is why I really feel that it's very effective when you do that. Is it helpful? Is it true? Have the 2 lines, measure it. This is kind of my last slide, just kind of making sure that you do something for yourself, like we talked about already, because you need to model. Biggest thing is modeling. You could say a lot of things, but they're watching how we're handling it. And that's what they're going to take from this. And they're learning so much about themselves and handling stressful situations. To enjoy those tiny moments of connection with your child, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and trying to focus on the good moments with them.
Anyways, thank you again. Thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you very much, Konstantina, for taking the time to share your knowledge and your expertise with us.